You're live, it says. Hello. Welcome. I have my friend Sarah here with me. And
Hello.
hi, Sarah says hi. Gonna finish reading however far we can get on Sober on a Drunk Planet because I'm just really digging this book. Okay. Here's the fascinating part that's much discussed in sobriety communities. It's not about what you give up, it's about what you get back. One of the most used sayings within sober communities is that sobriety delivers everything alcohol promised. You hear that one a lot because it's true. The one thing that surprised me the most was how quickly sobriety delivers. I think I already read this part, but it's okay. It's worth reading again. And that's just really great when it does that for people. It wasn't the case with me, and that's okay. I'm alive to tell the tale. When you start to see how drastically different life is without alcohol, you begin to understand how much it impacted everything: health, relationships, finances, career, and the spiritual side of life. Think back to childhood and how into things you. I totally read this again.
It's okay.
Okay. I'm gonna move on to where I was actually thinking I was supposed to be starting. I must have accidentally flipped a page. Okay, the joy of being at play. There's nothing at all happy about the next few days after a happy hour. Okay. The reality is that you do gain much more than you lose when you quit alcohol. Not only do you get a childlike enthusiasm back, but you also get to enjoy all the same things you enjoyed before: holidays, nights out, dating, Christmas, birthdays, friendships, sex. That little list shows once again how alcohol pops up everyone. Over time, we come to associate it with all those things. We wonder if we'll ever enjoy them the same way again. Well, along with millions of other sober people, I can assure you that you can. And if you're thinking of how much you love the taste of specific drinks, there's a booming alcohol-free market catering to all the new non-drinkers. For real. And
Love
it's
that.
just as pricey as a fancy drink too. You know, I quit drinking 30 years ago, so I'm just flabbergasted at some of the prices of drinks now. My
For
Atlanta. Long gone are the days when you only had one alcohol-free option to offer on offer to you and were mocked by everyone in the pub for ordering it. There are also much deeper issues to think about, and they are all things that giving up alcohol can improve. If you're constantly worried you're not reaching up to your full potential, giving up alcohol can be the motivational rocket you need to get started. If you need to repair damage to any area of your life, your health, relationships, finances, or career, giving up alcohol can be the missing key to turning your life around. We'll stop there. All right. Thoughts? Thoughts, Sarah?
Yes, that's 100% true. The thing that I didn't realize, well, I started drinking. I didn't really have a problem. I had 4 kids, and I was, a caretaker to my grandma, and so it wasn't until I lost her and kind of lost identity in myself and what I was doing that I started drinking too much, to excess. Started drinking to hide the pain,
Right.
or to
Right.
not sit with myself anymore, to
Yeah.
escape.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's the thing that I don't think anyone's necessarily prepared for with sobriety is the sitting with yourself. That's the hard
For
truth.
100% sure. I mean, why else would we drink? You know, there are a lot of reasons, but that's a big one.
Yeah, and society creates a world where it's socially acceptable. It's worse than socially acceptable. It is the norm. It's abnormal. Of course, like you said, it is trending more towards sober curious movement and like mocktails, which shrubs are great. Vinegar shrubs are great mocktails when you first get started with that, if you do like the taste of a drink. But
Yeah.
it's just, you're an oddity. Like when you go out, some people, they quit inviting you to things.
Yeah.
Whether, they might mask it as, oh, I didn't want you to be uncomfortable because I know they'd be drinking.
Mhm.
But it's also that you're not drinking makes everybody uncomfortable about their own drinking.
Yeah.
So
Been there, done that so many times. Been around that block a few times.
yeah, so that's interesting. And again, that's a
Mhm.
comfort thing where we were talking about the discomfort that you lean into alcohol in the first place.
Yes.
So you make other people feel uncomfortable about their consumption or their drinking, and that's uncomfortable. But it's weird how heavy it is pushed. It's the only substance or drug that you have to justify not providing at a party, or you have to say, BYOB, like bring your own booze. I mean, could you imagine if it was like that with like Xanax or pills, where you're expected to have a bowl of that out here, numb yourself to my party.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I never thought about that as a message that we're sending. Wow, for sure.
And then to our kids, and
Yeah.
I have one son who struggles with autism.
Mhm.
And so he has a lot of social anxiety, which we all do. And
Yeah.
so for him, I think that he thinks that drinking makes him more social and fun.
Yes.
But then he also doesn't know when he crosses that line to where all of a sudden he is he's having to be, instead of he's dealing with himself and he's feeling good, he's having to be dealt with,
Yeah.
And I know we've all been there. We've all been there. We've all been that friend where you're like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I relate to that. I was so socially awkward. And when I found booze, I mean, I thought I'd found God, to be honest.
Courage in a can. Yeah.
There
courage
you
in a
go.
can.
I really did.
Yeah.
I used to have this thing that I'd say, I'd go to church and didn't find God there, but you know what? Bellied up to a bar and lo and behold, there he was.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, and you feel confident and all those things that you want to feel. And
yeah, I mean, it's
and
like
I
a
felt
miracle
funnier.
drug if you have any kind of social anxiety and social awkwardness. It is.
Which we all do. Who doesn't? I mean, I guess
That's
there are
right.
people who don't.
That's right.
But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's like what we're talking about, authentic, being authentic as
Mhm.
opposed to, or just the attachments that you have to being cool, being funny. Like that's part of what you have to let go too. If your identity is tied to being the life of the party,
Right.
and that's kind of tethered to drinking, which of course I'm realizing, I'm not as far as I'm 4.5 years sober. Basically 5 years. Like I quit, but then I noticed that like I'd go 3 months and then I would drink. I mean, so I quit, and then 3 months later I celebrated my grandmother's birthday with a bottle of whiskey that led to me. It was a trust house, but breaking into the house, stealing the lamp. It was a great idea.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, sounds like a good idea at the time.
All right. And then 3 months later, I drank again, and it was 3 days before my dad died. And so on the plane of alcoholism, on the plane to go deal with my father's death, I said 3 years, and then I realized later that would be 2/22/22. So we talk about, I mean, I feel like the coincidences, the numbers, the signs. And then when I hit that mark, I was like, well, am I done now? Like, what am I doing? Like, I don't even know what I'm doing. But I have this sort of anger with alcohol, one, for being a really bad parent to me,
Yeah.
Watching it take my dad, because he was a really kind, loving person, and he drank because he felt uncomfortable too, but it just became, he wasn't who he was, anymore. He was a bitter person who was super attached to the pain of his life and what he was denied by life. And so anyway.
I'm gonna interrupt just a second. You in the chat, if you could give me a 5x5, can you hear Sarah okay? Just have to assume we can. Oh, awesome. Thank you, Awaken. I appreciate that. Yay. Yeah, that was, I just thought, my goodness, when you told me that you were quitting drinking with your father's death, it made sense. but it didn't make sense too, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I would have been dead. Like, I could not
Yeah.
have handled that, and I
Yeah.
knew that on the plane by
Wow.
myself. My family couldn't go, and I'm flying back into the life of an alcoholic, you know?
Yeah.
And so I knew, I mean, his wake or his memorial was at the Capitol Bar. And I will say, you know, 835-1190-95 or 1196, you know, that's the first number I memorized as a child because he was at the
Mm.
bar all the time, and we were probably 4 or 6, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so his memorial was at a bar, and just like all of his friends drank, my uncle drinks, and
Yeah.
you learn a lot about people when you're dealing with tragedy, you know,
True.
and how that all comes out. And so I don't think that I could have negotiated what I needed to negotiate in that moment in my life
Makes sense.
with, with, because I was already out of my mind. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that I had breathed for 3 days, you know.
Yeah.
And then and I was doing these things in my mind. I was ruminating where I felt like I was my dad. His brother Mark was kind of coming for me in a weird way, you know, and I was just ignoring it because I couldn't handle it. But then one night I was up all night and I was like, you know, can I cuss on the channel?
Absolutely. Go for it.
Okay, I don't know.
No. Yeah.
Like, I was just, you know, fuck off.
I was in a cult for 10 years.
Fuck off.
I didn't cuss for 16 years. I have a lot of time to make up for.
Right. Well, I was just looping that around in my head, and then I was beating myself up for doing it. I was like,
Yeah.
why are you letting him get to you? And then, you know, I kind of smiled, and I thought, I was up all night. I mean, from like 11 to 5, and I needed to get up at 6 and start packing and stuff. And so finally, I just, you know, I stood up and I was like, Papa wants me to tell Mark to fuck off, you know, and I immediately went to sleep.
That's amazing.
I think sometimes we have our loved ones still there with, you know, in between like this 3-day span.
I used to think that I was just going crazy, but I've had too much experiences with that, you know. Coming up next month, Mom will have passed away a year ago on the 10th. And
Right.
and I planted a tree for her, a maple tree in the front yard last fall. And my boy goats got out one day and just started chewing up everything in the yard, including that little bitty baby maple tree.
Oh,
yeah, and I just didn't know if it was going to pull through or not, and it did, but it's not happy. And so I decided I was going to order it some wind chimes, you know, something to sing to it to kind of help keep it happy and keep it company.
Right.
And, you know, and also just a, you know, memory for Mom. You know, I put it on the porch where she would go out every single day and sit and wave at the people driving by and shoot the chickens trying to get in the flowers. She had a little water gun, and she had a good aim too. She just, pew.
Oh, that's great.
And some chickens running. Yeah. Because they're destructive on plants too.
Oh, yeah, they are.
And
They're helpful, but they're destructive.
but you know, I've just been in this fog since she died, and I haven't really dealt with, you know, the things, the unfinished business that was there. At 95, how can there be unfinished business? But there was.
You're never ready to say goodbye to somebody. Like, my grandma was 90, and I knew it was coming, and you're just like, they're never ready. You know, you're never ready to lose somebody that is, and then you never really lose them, you know, is what I've found.
Yeah.
You know, of course you have them in a different way.
Yeah.
And if you let it, it's in a different way. And then as far as the trees and that stuff goes, I have lots of choices. I had all my kids at home. So I had the placenta, and so I tried, you know, burying it deep enough next to it. So many like placenta trees have died. But I did plant, like, my mom gave me this willow that survived in a bucket with no water for like years. And then when my dad died, I thought, oh, this will be funny. So I put a bunch of his ashes in a hole and then stuck my mom's tree. So it's like my parents' tree, and it's doing well.
Wow.
But I guess what I'm saying is you can't be attached to, just like life or death, you can't put any meaning behind that, because when the first couple of kids plant died. But the book put a lot of meaning into it. Like
Yes.
the dogwood died because the ants ate the placenta and killed the dogwood tree. And then I was like, thought it was my fault. And you can't really put that attachment in there. I took my dad's ashes and had a friend make glass beads out of them too. My husband's father died 6 months before mine.
Yeah.
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 And then people would be like, well, what happens if you lose the bead? And to me, it's no different than spreading ashes or being on this journey in life.
Okay.
The bead went on to be somewhere else. I mean, that's part of the life and death process. Like maybe if the tree died, not that it will, but then that's some healing that can happen for you too, because you were needing the tree in place of your mom, or whatever. Like, I don't know if I'm making any sense, but like, you can put too much attachment. We're going back to that attachment to objects or things in place of what is actually there. In the spirit.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say about that was these wind chimes just have an amazing tone. And, and I was just starting to come out of the fog in the last few, I don't know, week, 2, 3 ago, because, I've been kind of off with my meds. It's like I'd been taking the same thing for about 10 years for depression, which I've suffered with my entire life. I've decided, I used to think it was just my early 20s, but no, my whole life, as far back as I can remember, I've been dealing with this. And so I've been taking the same thing that has really helped for 10 years, but all of a sudden it was just not getting me through those really tough times. And I realized that my depression is cyclical. So I talked to my doctor about it and she added something to it. And lo and behold, I am little by little slowly starting to come out of the fog, and which means that I'm getting to where I'm gearing up to tackle this house, which is a total disaster. Everywhere you look, pretty much. I just let everything go. I did, and
I know.
And so, I mean, I'm working with a therapist on it and, all that stuff. And then, so as I had a really productive day a little while back, and I went outside at one point to see what the dogs were up to. Usually they're up to, well, Petey, he's not even a year old yet. Petey's usually up to no good. He's usually bugging Billy Bob the pig, or something. And so I was going out to see if he was, mauling little Seven, the little baby goat, or whatever he was, and he was just sitting there innocently and all that. But I'd heard a noise, so I just went to check on it. And when I came back up to the porch, as soon as I stepped up onto the porch, those chimes rang like they've never rung before. And I'm like, and I immediately, just instinctively, not even thinking, smiled, because I knew it was Mom.
Oh, I love that.
And it's in a corner, so the wind will catch it, but no wind has ever made it do what it did right then. And I felt like it was her saying, "Oh, I'm so relieved to see you coming out of that." She's watched me go through that my whole life, and she's had to sit there helplessly by and watch me struggle with, whatever it was she had to watch me struggle with. And anyway, I'm sorry, but I just don't believe that's a coincidence at all.
No, absolutely. I think they're with us always. And I believe that's what spirituality is. I believe we're all more interconnected than we necessarily want to think we are, or some people.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's where, the connection to the higher power. I was fortunate, like with the cult, I'm assuming that you have religious trauma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I watch stuff on Scientology, because I can process a lot of my cult stuff without having to deal with the triggering language of, every cult has cult speak, and the particular, language of my cult speak is just, I can't, cannot.
Well, to me, that's fascinating. So I think a lot of us have that to heal from, and that's hard. I don't know. I think that's crucial in recovery, is a connection to a higher power, a belief in a higher purpose.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So not
Yeah.
to have that much for me has been super helpful, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I know that there's a reason they stress that, you know, even if that's part of your struggle is, you know, what do I even believe about a higher power or my higher power, you know? That's something I really want to talk to somebody who has gone through that struggle with sobriety, because there was not a time in my life that I can ever recall where I just didn't feel like there is God. This God is aware of me and making me aware of this God, whatever, whomever, whatever whatever, you know. I've gotten comfortable recently with, you know, in the recent years with not needing it to be defined just so perfectly, like, because that's what cults do. You know, they hold up this is God, you know, and they draw him out and they make him in the image of their likeness.
Well, and they, from my understanding, is they basically rule with fear. You know, I mean, if
Mhm.
they're doing it right,
Mhm.
and then I choose not to come to a God out of fear, and I think that that's where recovery is. It's, for me, the higher power is tied into truly letting go,
Yeah.
because there's this element of control. You're trying to control your anxiety. You're trying to control the perception. You know, you're trying to control all these things that you're attached to being associated with.
Yeah.
And you have to let that go. I mean, that's one of the hardest things to do, is let that go. And I didn't realize, you know, I'm very codependent. And I was always trying to take care of my family, but I didn't realize how much that I was trying to take care of my family for me. Like, I was trying to control their behaviors, their actions, so that I felt safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you can't do that. You know, I mean,
It's true,
even to my
because, you know,
dad.
for better or for worse, when you give birth, that's a person who's going to have their own will and their own desires, and they're going to make their own choices. And some of those choices you're not going to be too happy with, but, you know,
Right.
that's the dice you rolled. So, you know,
or with my dad, I would beg him not to drink, you
Mhm.
know, and I would be like, if you loved me, you know, why are you doing this? Because he got to where he couldn't even eat.
Yeah.
Like, the last few years of his life, he couldn't even eat, but he wouldn't stop drinking. He couldn't stop drinking.
Wow. You know what?
And
That's where I was at the very end of my drinking. Is I was in seventh grade. I was a size 0, little tall skinny thing. And my mom found this brand of jeans called Itsy Bitsy, and she got them for me because they were the only, because I couldn't wear jeans because nothing fit, you know.
right.
And right before I flew out to California, where unbeknownst to me, I would be going into rehab. I was back at the farm in Lincoln, and my brother had not married my sister-in-law yet. They were just living together yet at that time, and I was just going through the cabinets and drawers like I always did. As you know, I don't even try to hide anything from me, because I snooped into everything. And when I was snooping around, in one of the linen closets, I found this sundress, really pretty little sundress that I wore at the age of 14. And I was just curious, and so I put it on, and I could zip the thing. I could zip the thing. And it was around that time that, you know, I'm looking in the mirror, you know, there used to be somebody living in here. Where'd she go?
Right.
Yeah. But I had quit eating pretty much myself. A lot of it
That's
was
a control thing. A lot
Mhm.
of food disorders are also linked to control. Like,
Yeah.
and then, you know, for me, I would do that as well. And I think my sisters would as well.
Yeah.
That's something that we could control, you know. And then also, you don't depend on anybody, because when you're little, you depend on people for your food and your nourishment.
That's right.
And so if you don't eat, or if you don't need to eat, then you don't need to depend on anybody.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So,
right.
It's weird to me how we tell kids, like, we're shocked, if lots of us start drinking at 14 and doing things that we shouldn't when we were young, and we hide it from them, but we tell the kids, oh no, you're not supposed to do that when you're young.
Yeah.
Like somehow 21 is the magic age where alcohol does not affect you. Or affects you differently, or all of a sudden it becomes acceptable.
Yeah.
It's strange.
I'm going to read a few of these chats here going. There's a friend of mine named Awakened by the Looking Glass. It's reflection. Hey, woman, I finally made a light. And Cosmic Christy, also another friend. Hello, hello. And I got some 5x5 to make sure that everybody could hear you. And they said that they can. Okay, so Cosmic Christie says that's exactly why I watch the Church of Scientology stuff too. She says, since leaving my cult, I've chosen to believe we are stars on Earth, our own little solar systems, too involved to put here, but I believe in the universe. I think that you and I have some similar things going on there. I do. That's beautiful.
I believe it's really common, especially in the Bible Belt, where a lot of people are having to recover from religious trauma.
Ooh, that's a big one. Don't ever diminish that one.
No.
All right. Well, anybody have anything else that they'd like to?
I think you're beautiful. I admire you.
I think you are too, Sarah. I love you.
It's a really great thing to share and connect with each other.
Yes, it is. And I'm hoping we can do more of this. I'm loving it.
Me too. I'll be there. I'll join you for a live. I'll be live for a live.
Yay! Yeah, and I've got a second microphone and a audio, coming. So I'll be able to. I think we have the technology.
We can do
it. Yes, we can. Even if we have to ditch the mics, we'll figure it out.
We can do it however.
Yeah. Well, I just want to do that moment of silence for the person still suffering and the people that we've loved and lost, and then go into Grant Me. Will you lead us in the grant?
I would love to. That reminds me of Mima. That was one of her favorite prayers, and I like it too.
I love
Basically,
Mima.
It touches back on control. Like, oftentimes you only really have control over yourself.
Yeah.
On how you're going to internalize that situation.
All right. So, moment of silence for however long you're comfortable, Sarah.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Amen. Thank you. All right, everybody. I'll stay on for a few minutes in case some people want to chat a little bit. And I love you, Sarah. I'll see you soon.
Love you too. Yes, for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. That was amazing. It's so much better when there's people, to have a meeting with. Don't you think? It has been a lovely chat. Thank you, Christy. I appreciate that. I'm grateful for you too, Awakened by the Looking Glass, this reflection. Oh, it's good. It's so good. Okay. Yes, get it ready and give her a hug from me if you would, Christy. It's good to see you too. Anything else, anybody? funny because this is exactly what I have been wanting to do for so long, just can't get my crud together consistently long enough, LOL. Would you like to come on to a live with me sometime, and maybe that'll get you the kickstart you need? Yes, Christy. Hugs, big, big, big hugs. Okay. All right. Whenever you're ready, and I'll just keep pestering you until you are. Sound good? Okay. All righty, all righty, all righty. Did I sound like Matthew McConaughey there? I guess there's nothing wrong with that. Have a yard sale starting tomorrow through the weekend. By then, it should be gravy. Okay, okay, yeah, 100%. Hope you make a lot of money at that yard sale, garage sale. Yes, yes, I do too. I need pestering sometimes too. Woo, do I need pestering? I'm the best procrastinator I know. Ooh. All right. Well, I love you so much. Thank you for being here. I've enjoyed this tremendously, and I'll see you soon. Peace.